I'm
Cool.
comfortable.
Good.
Like
Okay.
having targets on my hind end. I like. Do you have a Bible
On me
near?
right now.
I wish I
In
could.
my
It's okay. It's cool. I used. Oh, wait, I have one. I always keep one.
There you
Where's
go.
that? Did
All
you
right,
find
we
one?
are rolling. No, I did not. I think I have one in my room, maybe. But
Well, chapter 1 is just interesting that it starts out, be ye therefore perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect.
yeah.
And if you read the verse, it's the text, Matthew 5:44. It says, "Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, pray for them that spitefully use you."
Mm,
That's
mm,
that is the epitome of perfection.
yeah.
Love your
Yeah.
enemies, because that's how God that's what the whole idea of that is. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
everybody.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, reflective. I'll tell you what, I went up in the mountains and read a lot. I
Yeah.
get up away from you can't hear cars, and it's just water.
Nice.
Talking about, gosh, I wish I could find this. Hold on a minute. Oh yeah, on hope in God alone.
Mm,
Oh man, I can't remember which one it was. Anyways, I might find it here in a minute.
sure.
What did you think, man? What
Dude,
did you think about the book?
I didn't realize I would pull so much out of the introduction. I'm glad we went through that, and it's like a quarter of the book. So I definitely
Yeah,
had quite a few things marked in there. I kind of wrote down some notes. I was pretty surprised that there was actually some crossovers. I mean, I shouldn't be too surprised about like passions and giving up passions and things like that, kind of following with the libido dominandi. And then there were several bits in here that actually did surprise me about talking about like the Christ within in a way that like it's not just the Holy Spirit inside. It's like your soul manifests and is in communion with Christ. I thought that was pretty interesting.
there it is.
Let me see if I can find those. I started actually like marking stuff up. Yeah, so I have right here this part on 54 where it says Christ is always present in the Christian soul, whether the soul is aware of his presence or not. He
Exactly.
becomes more effectively present as the soul grows in grace, and then it feeds on Christ perpetually. I thought that was pretty wild. And then 65 had a great backup to that as well, where it talks about how he gives a clear explanation of what spiritual communion is, understanding the phrase in the broadest sense as a conscious realization of the presence of Christ in the soul. Christ, he says, is always present there, in fact, so long as we are not in a state of sin, but because of the distractions of daily life, we do not always perceive his presence. Spiritual communion is the act of restoring this perception so that we feel ourselves to be partaking of Christ. That kind of amazed me that that was actually a focus on that as opposed to the Holy Spirit. That was quite interesting.
That's the point. That's the Christ is the Holy Spirit. That's the
Right,
Mashiach.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and they call it the Christ is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's like when you see the Lord Jesus Christ, it would actually say Yahweh Yeshua HaMashiach.
Hmm.
That's yeah.
Hmm.
It's when they say Christ, that's the Messiah,
Right,
the
right.
anointed one. HaMashiach, that's Aramaic for the Messiah, and
Hmm.
it's actually, I mean, the oil and stuff. It relates to a lot of things.
Right.
Um, and anyways, I don't want to get off on something else, but a lot
That's
of,
what we're here for, right?
yeah, I know, but I don't want to take off the topic because
Right.
I'll get to. I don't know. Anyways, I just know that people see things in the scriptures. These guys are
Mm-hmm.
good, and they see these things that are truths, and they think that. I know I bring this up a lot. It really not concerns me, but I guess I pray for them because how are they
Hmm.
seeing this as allegory? And see
Yeah.
all the, and I really now know what happened. Astrotheology started, and they saw it in the scriptures, and so they
Hmm.
started teaching it in the 1800s, late 1800s. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
at the same time, Jehovah Witnesses, Mormons, Christian Science, and Adventists all started at the same time during that time period.
Hmm.
So what
Okay.
it is they're taking things, excuse me, they're reading things in Scripture and just taking out a few scriptures and
Uh-huh.
building a whole doctrine upon them. And that's
Interesting.
what they're
Okay.
that's what they're doing with the Bible. That's
Right.
what Dr. Carey's doing. And it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting that it happened during that same time period,
Right.
when Jehovah Witnesses and all those other things use the scriptures, but
Right.
it
Right.
just wasn't as big of, and it just wasn't as big as an encompassing group.
Sure. Sure.
But, yeah, very interesting. But I've read Germ Theory, AIDS Inc. It's in the,
Nice.
it's in the blood. and I read that Beauchamp and Pasteur book. I
You
think
went
I started,
hard in the medical stuff over the last
yeah,
few
and I
weeks.
got, yeah, I'm gonna, oh yeah, I mean, one more footnote.
Hmm.
During that time in the 1800s when that astrotheology was linking to the scriptures,
Hmm.
because it is there. I just want to make sure you understand it is there.
Yeah, yeah. There's
But
definitely. I
that's
understand
not
why
but
they're getting that.
yeah, but the book does not say it's allegorical. So you
Right.
can't go, it's allegorical because it's not being allegorical, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
When it is, you know it. So anyway, I mean, oh yeah, that's why like E.W. Bullinger wrote the book about the gospel and the stars, or the witness of
Mm.
the stars. Those
Right.
books, those two books were written during that same time period by very intellectual ministers.
Yeah.
You know, to
Yeah.
go, well, look, we know, we already knew this. You know, that's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's the same thing. They're saying the same thing. That's what's so interesting.
It's wild, right? Like even though they're saying this side saying allegory and this side saying real or
One of the
whatever,
problems is they're interpreting it like they're seeing it just Western, and that's wrong. That's not a
Hmm.
Western book.
Right.
Even
Right.
because it's written in English does not mean it's Western.
Right. Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
there's no
That's a
the
good point.
concepts in it. The concepts in it are obviously not Western, and every minister in the West, especially in the past few years, I mean, probably since the '80s when money started flowing and things really well
Hmm. Hmm.
into the '90s, um, it's been preached wrong.
Hmm.
It's all been infiltrated. It's like what I was saying a few weeks ago, how we've all became Babel, the Tower of Babel. We're all
Sure.
going toward the same thing and we don't realize it.
Sure.
And is there really a church in America?
Hmm.
Because we're
Hmm.
not persecuted, you know?
That's a great point, right? Is that it? It really goes to
Well,
show, like,
the excuse is that cultures like civilized cultures, like Western cultures, it's all mental persecution. And I'm like, hey, okay,
if
that's a good one.
yeah, you'd know if you were being persecuted properly, right? Yeah. That's
Yeah, it's interesting, and nobody
right.
is, man. I mean, that okay. So the thing about AIDS, and this was one of my when I first, when this thing first started happening with the COVID,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and a friend I knew, he asked me, he goes, "What do you think about what's going on?" I was like, "It sounds really 9/11ish," and
Sure.
and then
Sure.
I started thinking when I was listening to it because I remembered when the AIDS thing started hopping. It was in the '80s. I was young, probably 10, and I remember
Hmm.
the dialogue was, "There's not going to be enough hospitals beds."
Right.
All the
Right.
same dialogue, and it's like it's the same. HIV causes the disease.
Right.
There's a virus that causes AIDS. That's
Yeah.
that's not true at all.
Because AIDS is the syndrome of the
It's like, well,
of
okay, look,
whatever,
it's
right?
like coronavirus
Yeah.
causes COVID.
Right.
Same scenario, man. It really is sad that people felt you couldn't fall for it because it was pushed into the basically homosexual communities in the bathhouses in San Francisco. But
Sure.
this book, just like it was all lies. It's the same thing, money.
Hmm.
They even
Yeah.
talked
I
about how,
mean, it's
how the
crazy to
doctors were paid
see.
to get put down polio in the '50s.
Right. Right.
They would
Right.
pay $25
Wow.
to put down polio. So
Wow.
think about what's going on now. Oh, here's one. The other day, I was mentioning to a client about my uncle dying, and it was a few years ago. And he goes, "Did he die of COVID? Because you get $9,000 if they died of COVID."
Oh my gosh. And you're like, yeah, why don't we turn my uncle's death into a paycheck? Like,
Yeah, and it's like I was like, "Real dude." No, I said, because my response always is, well, he died, because when somebody asked me what they died of, I was like, their heart stopped beating.
fair. Like, do you really need all the details
No,
and all the
it's like,
gory,
what do
like,
you like?
right.
Because everything we've created this death thing about cancer killed them. And
Yeah, yeah.
because if you really, these books I've read explains all this, how it's you, because cancer has, this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go, but the cancer thing, I knew, I was like, it's a generic term, you know,
It
that
covers a wide spectrum of
there you
things.
go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so many cures that have been said. Like I've read, let's see, one, two, I've read two things about cures, basically about bowel treatment. And then there's
Hmm.
another one basically getting rid of mucus out of your, uh, and I haven't read it yet. And then one of
Hmm.
the books I just bought is fasting, but it's about getting mucus out and cleaning you out. And like
Hmm.
you said, if you do a 24-hour fast, just drink distilled water, but add a little bit of honey and a little bit of lemon juice, and it gets this mucus out through your bladder.
Huh.
And I was like, that's crazy how all these things are like, okay, I just got a video today where a guy took they're showing people getting cured by taking it's a parasite killer for, I think, horses or dogs.
Hmm.
And it's killing the cancer cells out of certain things.
Really? Wow.
And
it's like
I
is it a pretty isolated thing, or is it like an antibiotic that kills
I'll send you the link to the video.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And those books that you mentioned about like the mucus and the bowel stuff, send me those too if you remember what the titles are.
Oh heck yeah, man! I'll take it. Like I said, I'm trying to read through those because that's like I've got, like I said, those two, the Gerson method. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard talk about that.
Yeah,
I've read that book, and then there was one written by an iridologist, the eye guy. I read it. Those two are about bowel. These are about just it's staying clean, man, and eating properly. And it's very interesting how when I've read these, like the Beauchamp versus Pasteur book was written in 1920.
Wow.
Or wait, maybe 1940. I'm sorry. So right during World War II, this book was written. So it's really close because they were in 1880s.
Right.
And she just discovered this thing and puts together like they gave them typhoid shots, the soldiers in World War I.
Right.
And then they got tuberculosis. So they gave them a shot for that. And then they got something else and gave them a shot for that.
Yeah.
And then they died of influenza because they killed their music. They couldn't fight.
Right.
That's exactly what happened.
Once you get like hammered with this stuff and then just the flu. Yeah.
Yeah, because a couple of books, sources I've read have mentioned during the Spanish flu, they were, like I said, they were giving insertion, spitting on, doing everything they could to figure out, and it could not be passed. It wasn't passed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen some of that. I didn't quite read a whole book on it, but I watched a pretty interesting documentary.
No, it's just reference that
right.
They were getting people out of jail. They were letting people get out of jail if they do it.
Which we're seeing happen right now as well. That's the crazy thing.
I'm not seeing anything. That's what's funny. I'm not. No, it's the same.
That's right. You're doing a good job. You're staying out of it.
No, I'm seeing the pattern. Like 1918, it's a 48 to 49 year, like it was the 1918, and then you had the polio thing, and then there was even the AIDS thing.
Yeah.
And in that the germ theory book, it's called By Germ Theory book. It had a lot of stuff. It was very good, and it had affidavits in the back and stuff.
Wow.
About not taking vaccines. Yeah, it went from all of it. We had talked about the Beauchamp guy guy, and had affidavits in case they're trying to make you vaccine your kids and stuff.
Wow.
And this was like maybe 2000. This is an older book. That's 20
crazy.
years old.
The fight's been going for a long time.
Dude, I knew about vaccines 20 years ago. I knew about that 20 years ago.
It's crazy.
Yeah, wow. And like I was around people that were informed about those things.
Sure.
They didn't get into conspiracy things, but
yeah, but some people like it's kind of there's one thing that they really focus on or that's important to them with their kids or whatever, and they may not explore anything else in the realm and just say, you know what, I need to figure out what's going on here, especially like with health. Like, how did I get this issue or this autoimmune disease or this whatever, and then they try to like laser focus on that. Yeah, I totally get that.
I mean, the rabies, everything was proven like this is ridiculous. There's no rabies situation. Did we talk about that?
No, I know James True did a podcast on that, and he kind of got upset with people because he was like, I worked in a vet, I know what rabies is. And I was like, this is never something I've ever looked into or know enough about.
Well, what was he saying?
He was saying that even though he agrees with like Kaufman and the others on the terrain and germ theory stuff and the viruses and whatnot, he was like, there is something to rabies because I have seen it happen with the animals that get bit or infected or whatever. So I just don't know enough about rabies in general.
Oh, okay. It's basically there is something, but it's not as extreme as we're being told. Mm-hmm. Like for example, there was a story or an account where two men were confronted by a dog. One of them got bit and didn't get any treatment. The other one didn't get bit, but was made to take a shot because of his job. And this was in 1918 or 20. So it was a while back. And he died.
After the shot?
Yeah.
Naturally, right?
Hey, listen, I got one for you. Someone I know personally, it's personally in the medical industry, and he hadn't put this together. It's very interesting, but there was a guy that took the vaccine. He had a reaction to it. Then he gave him a steroid shot. And then the guy almost died of a heart attack.
Holy cow.
And it's like, give him another shot and see if that helps.
Right. The first one didn't quite do what we wanted. We're going to back it up with this. Or,
It's the same thing, man. It's got, it's very interesting how the next time it's over.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy too is since you kind of mentioned these last few,
time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned like the last few pandemics and whatever, it's like, it's crazy to see the same things happen again and again. And like people largely don't learn the lesson, all the fear hits and everything like that. And then it's cemented forever.
The big grabs are every 50 years. So you got to think 50 years, man, I'm going to be 95.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what you're thinking.
Most people aren't going to be around.
Yeah.
To remember. And if they are, like now people are informed. So it's going to be, it's great. It's going to be crazy if they make something. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if it happens again, and there could be a rise because of the vaccines. That's the pattern. There's nothing going on. They make something happen, and then cause a panic again. Right. Just like gas shortage, all that crap. It's the same.
Yeah.
There's a gas shortage, so everybody runs to the gas pumps, causing the gas shortage.
Yeah. It's
the gas shortage.
And that's we actually we were in North Carolina during that weekend. Was crazy to see. And it was like as we were driving in, it was something like 10% of stations were out, which isn't horrible. I mean, it's enough. But then by the time we had left, it was like 65% were out.
Wow.
And it was insane. And I know, number one, the news drove that, but you're absolutely right. Like it's the same thing that with the toilet paper and all this stuff. When people hear that, they freak out a little bit. And then that sends the snowball, right?
That is an example of silent weapons for quiet wars. That is exactly what that is. It's that bringing the economy. It just, and all they have to do is say something now.
Yeah,
and
right.
Like my friend works in Virginia. He knows someone who hasn't left his house in fear. When he heard that there was a gas shortage, he went and filled up 2 cars. He's not going anywhere.
He's not even going anywhere. Exactly.
He's just like beep, 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 you know.
Yep. Must react to stimulus. Yeah.
That's insane, isn't it?
It's wild to think that, and it doesn't even have to be true. That's the crazy thing is like, it doesn't even have to be totally true. And someone can say the thing.
True.
Exactly. Right. And someone can just freak out and just be like, all right, must repair, must fix, must, mitigate.
That's why I was talking to my son. I was talking to a friend of mine and my son, I'm like, what's bad is that people who say they trust in the creator are spreading lies in the creator's house.
Yeah.
Because if they're spreading, honestly, man, the news it's a TV show.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up.
Like C-SPAN is the TV. Look, that's what I was telling somebody the other day. I was like, oh man, what's crazy is they're just doing, they have their own TV show.
Exactly.
C-SPAN. It's C-SPAN. It's a TV show.
Yeah. There's a part in the book here where it says, listen to what St. Basil says, let listening to worldly news be bitter food for you, and let the words of saintly men be as combs filled with honey. I marked that specifically because I knew we would end up getting to this conversation.
That's really crazy.
It's like, it really is like when you get that, and that's, my, like I said, I was traveling with my fiance, and as we were going through all this, I was just saying, like, you have to remember, like, let the news be the news. We will find a way and God will provide. And every single time where we started to get that little bit of that pinch of fear, I was just like, God's going to provide. We'll find a way. And sure enough, we did. We were able to fill up 3 times. We had some scares, but I was like, we're not going to get stranded. This isn't going to end. Like, this is going to end. We're going to get through this. And you just have to trust that, like, we'll be taken care of. And it's wild to me. And I'm sure through high school, college, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit younger, but I had those moments where it was like, oh man, I got to do whatever, right? Just a little bit younger. But like now,
25, right?
26. Yeah. 26.
Yeah. It's like 20 years. that's crazy. That's right. I was like, I'm talking to this dude. He's 20 years younger than me. It's crazy.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, it's again, like I've learned over the last couple of years, like when that fear response hits, it's like, take a deep breath and ask yourself, like, is this the voice inside of me, or is this the voice of fear? Right. And like rationally, like, where is God?
Yeah. Because you're not being rational.
Right.
You're going to find gas I mean,
Right. It will come.
There's really no such thing as a game. That's what
Right.
I would actually when it's so crazy that Facebook in its disgusting way has created people that become informed.
It's weird.
And I
Very
think that is not good.
Yeah.
Because that's where the polarity comes, because
Yeah.
I stand upon, like, if I, like, basically observation and research. And my observation and research tells me that was all BS.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of them has been BS. To the plague, the Black Plague, all of it.
Yeah.
Because look, and it goes down to, and it's like there was a rat. No, it was a mite on a rat. It's like, how about
it just keeps.
Hey, how about all the trash that the rats are eating?
Right. Like let's all the urine and the feces and the lifestyle and
yeah, man, and it's all sanitation. It really comes down, and we live in the most sanitary place on earth.
And we're still having these issues, right? We're still having these issues.
No, people get sick.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
I'm talking. Yeah, we don't. But all those diseases or things that people are getting, we're basically over with because of our sanitation.
Right.
We came out of basically shitting in the streets. That's basically
right. Oh yeah, they like dump it off their second story hotel room.
It's always in infrastructure, city structures.
Yeah.
It's always because I don't think what happened. New York was a lie. They were not piling up dead bodies and cremating the crap.
Right.
They were during the 1918 one though. I promise.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, you got to think now with you mentioned like all the sanitation stuff. As we came out of that and cleaned that up and running water, we were doing this, right? And now what we've done is gone the other way with like our food and the terrain. Our food has become so much more commercialized garbage, and now the terrain is totally jacked.
It is. You get drugged from your birth till you die.
Yeah.
It's everything. It is. And it's all those things you're getting from what I've seen is creating the problems that you have most of it.
Yeah.
And you're toxic like from birth basically now.
Yeah, we're just like this. Yeah, it's like a toxic soup from the time
Which I can see that just how anyway, I don't want to talk about that, but I don't get in that situation. There was something else. Oh yes, how the AIDS thing, if you think logically, like dudes were vacationing, in those bathhouses in San Francisco, and there was no big spreads, nothing going on. It was accumulation of several things they were just labeling, and it was basically coming down to money and agreeing with the status quo.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like you got to think after 1 or 2 nights of low sleep and bad diet, like I get pretty crappy feeling, but you got to think like multiple nights, bad sleep, a bunch of partners, alcohol, uppers, downers, bad food.
3,000
what?
Partners. One of them.
Oh my gosh.
By the time he was your age, like 27, he had 3,000 partners, and he was making a statement like, this is what he was saying in the book, like, not the guy who wrote the book, but the guy who's interviewing. He's like, why are they not seeing our lifestyle and putting connections together? Because I've dealt with all these things, syphilis, all these things that you get from, and like the needle thing is a hoax because needles are only $2, and everybody gets. You don't share needles for other reasons besides AIDS.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot of reasons you don't share needles. It's you get other stuff, besides AIDS.
Yeah,
but needles are only $2. Why would it's like? And the guy's like, you're not going to jeopardize or risk getting something from somebody over $2.
Right. Well, the only way that I really see that one going that way is like with the homeless, like that I would understand where every single cent counts. But like again, they're not even
aren't freebasing cocaine and heroin.
Right. That's the thing, right?
You know how much that crap is? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You know heroin and cocaine are? I mean, that's
right.
It's not like buying a quarter bag of weed.
Right. Well, that's where you find too, like they're getting even the less pure drugs. I don't know if you ever saw that stuff in like Russia with like the crocodile, where it was basically gasoline and like 2 or 3 other ingredients, and people's minds are just like melting and they're freaking out in the streets. Well, that's what happens when you mainline.
Yeah, that's chemicals.
Gasoline. Yeah.
That's chemicals, man. That's You're cutting it with chemicals. That's what they call it. You're cutting it.
Right.
That's why meth in a lab is not as bad as meth in a shake and bake, because they're cutting it and just like cocaine in its pure form as the plant.
Yes.
You can chew on it and it's like getting a little. But once you refine it like sugar and wheat,
Turns out that's a
It's the
hit,
same
right?
way. They refine sugar and flour the same way as cocaine, like
Right.
the process. So you're really
Wow.
getting a product that's not supposed to be what you're getting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's
messed up by man.
right. That's one of the things I was learning about wheat as I kind of looked into that like once you take it and you smash it up, right, and it's got the husks and things like that, and some of that your body can't really process and it'll just push through. But like you said, once you take a lot of that stuff out and refine it and grind it and bleach it and bromate it, and this, you've got you've got a chemical concoction going on right there. That's wheat,
Yeah.
right? It's wheat.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, wheat. I thought you were saying weed. I'm like,
No, no. Yeah. You
I've
know how
never
you do with the weed? Yeah.
but okay.
Right. No, yeah. But
I'm gonna have
wheat,
to do that. I
yes.
was like, he's like, okay, you're gonna bleach the weed.
Right. Bleach the
Weed.
weed. Yeah. Right, right.
Oh, yeah,
No,
see, I got
but
some whole grain flour from the Amish ground mill. There's an Amish community
nice.
just
Nice.
right over the hill from where I live. So,
That's
and they
awesome.
have some. They have eggs.
Do they
Let's see.
do $1 a dozen on the eggs?
No, whatever. $4, man.
Oh, wow.
Eggs are
Wow.
expensive. Chicken
Yeah.
feeds, it's expensive.
Sure.
Chickens aren't cheap. That's kind of a. I
Yeah.
think they're selling. I can't remember what somebody said, $25 or something for chicks now, because everybody's buying
No
these
way.
products because
Oh,
there's a boom on things in the agrarian area. That's why the Amish are killing, man. It's just cash too.
dang it. Yeah. I guess I'll have to find somebody and know somebody. That's great. Because they used to be like a year ago, they were $1. So, yeah, like $1 a chick.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
haven't found chicken eggs for $1 in a long time.
I'm saying like a baby chick. You could buy baby chicks for
I
a
might
dollar.
be wrong. I'll have to ask the guy over here because he sells them. His wife sells them, and I might be way off on $25. So don't.
I'm sure it's gone up. I mean, why wouldn't it? Because everybody is doing the same thing. It's like gym equipment. Everybody's doing that. It's like when I was working for a third-party Amazon seller, bags of flour went through the roof because everybody was buying bread and bread makers on Amazon, and then it was getting backed up all the way through the suppliers. Like,
It's interesting, isn't it?
yeah, it's funny
Isn't that
that
interesting?
when we were going
See,
through
that's
that.
another team. That's another ping that they could create.
Yeah. Well, that one cracked me up because it was, like I said, I worked for a seller, but we worked under Amazon, right on their platform.
Yeah.
And bags of flour went from like $3 or $4.
Hey, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna have to.
Sure.
My son don't want to be on video.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, he's very. Hold on a second, dude. Let me stop video. I'm gonna mute it for a second.
Sure. Well, anyway, not to have any dead air, we will wait for David's son to pass through. Let me see if I can find one of these other quotes here. 79. Let's see, what was it on 79? Oh, yeah. A quote I liked on here was an evident sinner will turn towards good more easily than a secret sinner hiding under the cloak of visible virtues. I thought that was a great little quote. You back? Okay, yeah. I don't want to.
Hey,
Don't want to.
that was great. How far did you get, brother?
I made it through. I am definitely behind. Like I said, I did a lot of traveling recently.
Oh.
I'm just breaking into the hundreds. So, and we'll talk about this in a minute. But what I was saying about the bread was it cracked me up because in this time of turmoil and everything, everybody's freaking out, like bread makers and bread sold out, or they went from $3 or $4 to like $15 a packet. And I was just like, if you've read one verse from the Bible, you know that man will not survive on bread alone. And I was just like,
no, that's beautiful. That's what I'm laughing about.
I was just like, if you've even spent a minute within scripture, you would have realized how funny that is, that like people are worried about the comfort of their butt, and then bread is just like whew, gone. I was just
I like
up.
the 4 things. How chapter 1, never rely on yourself in anything, bear always in your heart a perfect and all-daring trust in God alone. Strive without ceasing and remain constantly in prayer. And man, that is so net. And he's writing this in the 1500s with a lot less distractions.
Exactly. Right. Now think about all the stuff we have to like shed and pull.
I mean, I'm just thinking about how far that it came to that point to where this is really good. This is something you'd read again,
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, there's a lot of it to really like sink in and like read it again. And that's what I was doing when I was tabulating this before we started. Was I do everything by pen, and then I go back later, and as I tab the page that I penned, I reread the segment, so it kind of sticks. And yeah, I mean, Steve made a great recommendation.
This is my favorite part of the beginning. Okay, it's talking about on hope in God alone and on confidence in Him. it gives these three things. We seek help, like the following thoughts will help us be grounded in this hope, like that God will help us. Okay.
Mm.
We seek help from God who is omnipotent and can do all that he chooses and can also help. We seek him who, being omniscient, and this is on page 85, omniscient and wise, knows all the most perfect manner, and therefore knows fully what is the best for the salvation of each one of us. And then C, that we seek help from God who is infinitely good and who comes to us with ineffable love, always desirous and ready from hour to hour and from moment to moment to give us all the help we need for complete victory in the spiritual warfare which takes place in us as soon as we run with firm trust in his. And then the next paragraph is really good on page 85. And this is like, I'm going to read this and I'll stop.
No, good.
And how is it possible that our good shepherd, who for 3 years went in search of sheep that had gone astray, calling so loudly that his throat became parched, and following ways so hard and thorny that he shed all his blood and gave up his life? How is it possible, I repeat, that now, if his sheep follow him, turn to him with love and call for his help with hope, he should fall and turn his eyes to the lost sheep? And it's just saying that how much more is he going to do it?
Yeah.
He came to do that. It's the amazing thing that when you really stop and just ponder how he was born of woman.
Yeah.
But as I was telling my son today that, he had to go through everything that a human being went through.
Yeah.
That's why he had to be born of woman.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting, and I come to this understanding that we're all Mary.
How
we're
so?
all the bride of Christ. So you're the bride of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one bride. You're the bride of Christ. And we all harness the Christ in us is the seed, which is the seed that Mary was impregnated with. The seed of Christ, which is the seed of Abraham, which is the seed. It's the seed. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
That's you. So that's because you're, as you die to yourself, that's what this is about.
Yeah. A lot of this. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole point. That's the point. Only believers have altars. Altars are places where things die.
Yeah.
There's only one thing left. You offer unto him. That's what it's, a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is a reasonable service. Hey, it's just reasonable.
That is such a great verse that it's like, this is just your spiritual act. This is just what you do. It's that simple. This is the least
like
you can do.
Servant waiting for a thank you from the master because he served you food.
Right.
And that's a parable that Jesus said. Do you think that it's you're not going to say thanks? And
right.
And it's what's crazy is how good he is that he does say thanks. There's it. It is crazy when you're reading it. When I read through this, it's really, you start thinking about your life and going, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Holding, and even in just my mind, like he's talking about, okay, like this one, striving for a virtue. Like, let's say you're asking the Lord for patience. Well, patience comes through.
You have to train it. Yeah, you got to train it.
Perseverance. All of it is training. That's the point. All of it's training. That's the thing. And it's like, if you think you can do this and then take off a day, you're wrong. Because this is every day.
Right.
And he's talking about getting patience, hoping for patience. It's like, if you want a virtue, just focus on one. Just like if you're trying to overcome something that's hindering you, focus on the worst one that's hindering you. Like, and it's really, I can see how that can become so much dogma that you become proud of what you're doing, that it's you fallen from grace, because that comes a point where you fall from grace. And there's a way that he warns against it in the book. It's warned against, like, putting so much emphasis on these things. Like, you got to remember, you're not doing anything.
Right.
You would not be doing anything.
Right. That's what I find really a fascinating concept of this. It's like the basis, like what you just said, the foundation of this is like, you have to shed everything about yourself, that you are nothing compared to the power of God. And he hits that over and over and over again. And like, your communion with Christ and internalizing that is how you become, he mentions in here multiple times, like how you can truly achieve perfection. Because if you really are going to be like Christ, you're going to shed all of you, let him take over, and that's how you can achieve perfection. And there's a point where he says, it
never ends until you die.
Right. There's even a point where he says, like, if you fail, he's like, it's okay. Don't be overly grievous of your mistake, because then that puts you in a prideful position, like, oh, I was such a good Christian and now I failed. No. You need to acknowledge it, pray about it, and move on and say, I screwed up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because condemnation is not right. You're not supposed to walk in condemnation
Yeah.
of yourself or others.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I was just about to say that.
There is no condemnation. And see,
Yeah.
people don't have a problem. When I say people, everybody, most people, but
Sure.
when you really talk to people that, like the group that that I grew up with, most of them are morally upright people. They don't drink or do. They don't drink. They don't cuss.
Sure.
They're really strict moral people, which I don't even hold those things as moralities, because but they worry and all those things, and say stuff like, I can't help it, and then go, well, I know I can, but that's the worst one.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? You serve the Creator. It's just like with the gas situation, apprehension comes. I had a thing happen the other day, and that happened in my family situation. And when I heard the news, I felt, the apprehension in my.
Sure.
I'm like, what is that going to do?
Right. Like, what is this feeling?
What does worry add one measure to your life? That's what the scripture says. Does it add 1 second to your life?
Yep.
Worry. It probably, the contrast, you have to think of what the contrast is. It doesn't add seconds. It takes away seconds.
Right. Because you spend valuable time.
Well, you're focusing on something that at that moment you just heard something.
Right.
And you're already responding like it's a saber-toothed tiger.
Right. And there's nothing you can do. It's already happened. Like you're spinning your wheels, and that energy has nowhere to go, really, except into your internals.
No, that's how stress is built. That's how you become addicted to doing those things. And then that's how depression comes in, because you think there's always something to run from, and you don't get to, like you said, expel that adrenaline that you built up, and your body has to go through that chemical response.
Yeah. Because it really is. It's a chemical thing with the adrenal stuff. Yeah.
And you end up getting addicted to it, and you respond to life that way, and your mind, you respond that way. Your will, God, it's crazy. And you really have to make it conscious, like you did. Go.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on.
Yeah. Well, that's the funniest thing about the gas shortage. It's like we said, there wasn't one. There was a hack or whatever, which we know is pre-planned always. We know those are always pre-planned. And then there was a gas shortage because people melted down. But I was like, even in the middle of the gas shortage that's artificial, there's still cars on the road. There's still people going to and from work. They're still going to the beach. There were still people mowing their lawns with the big 0-point turns. And I was like, we're going to be fine. We're going to be
gas
fine.
was almost $5. Nobody quit.
Right. Exactly. And so I know, right. It's funny to see that. Like, you almost have to take yourself out of that and just go, what's literally happening right in front of me? There are cars on the road. If there's a gas shortage, wouldn't there be less cars? There's not. There's still traffic, rush hour traffic, all kinds. People are getting gasoline. They're finding a way. It's just, you just have to be very realistic, and like you said, let that worry go.
Certain places that are worse, probably, like when you got to a city. The city, the worse it was going to be. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We did pull up to one, and there was some of them are just smaller stations, and there were maybe 20 cars, and some of them were waiting in line. And I asked the guy, I said, how long have you been, is this taken? He said about 4 hours. And I was like, holy hell, you see? I was like, you're kidding, right? He said, no, they're taking about 20 minutes per car because the pumps are so strained to get stuff out or whatever, because there's so little flowing or whatever. He was like, it will take you 4 hours to get to the pump with only a few cars in front of you. It was crazy, man. And so it's wild because it was real, like I said, but we knew before that it really wasn't. There was an issue with a little bit, and then people.
No, something is created. It's I was trying to explain this to I'll explain it like this. There's nothing called cancer. That's a created word to describe something that's upset in your body. You put a name to this, and you can use it to mold how people think about it.
Sure.
Okay, like for example, the AIDS thing. People were telling people they had AIDS dementia because there were it's like, I feel fine. It's like, you have AIDS dementia.
Oh yeah, you can have coronavirus.
People were jumping
out
of windows, man.
Right.
People were committing suicide because they thought AIDS was death sentence because that's what they were saying. Just getting HIV was a death sentence.
Right. Well, same thing with COVID. I mean, they said once you had COVID, like you could have it with no symptoms and then kill somebody, right? Your
No,
grandmother
that's
might
the
just
same thing. No, that's
die.
what I was telling my son. It's like that's exactly what it was with AIDS. Like you could have this thing that has no symptoms, and then you can have intercourse with someone and give it to them, and they won't have the symptoms either.
Right. And then they'll.
Now it's different because it doesn't take intercourse; it takes just being around someone.
Right. Breathing. Yeah. Your breath is poison.
It's like, are they just wanting everybody to stay home?
Right. And this is what was kind of blowing my mind, especially with the Christians.
Anytime stay home, quit spending money.
Right. Yeah. That's the good thing, right? Is if you're staying home, you won't spend a bunch of money, right? Put it all in savings or whatever, work from home. But the thing that got me, especially with Christians and COVID, is like, do you really believe that your breath is poison, that you could kill somebody just by existing? Is that a really Christian perspective
the
to have on your body?
Preachers were preaching the AIDS thing, man.
Exactly. I mean,
like judgment of God and they were uninformed, man. And it's so sad. It's the same thing. They shouldn't even be talking about it because it's all a lie. Remember what I went back to? Why are we talking about what the news is saying inside the creator's place? Why are you concerned about anything? Why are you concerned? Why are you even entertaining this thought?
Right.
See, that's the first fall. They took a thought.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
She took a thought that wasn't from God. She took a thought that was, and that's how it starts. Then it was the thing. And now we have so much mercy and grace that we're getting by with so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was one part in here where he talks about how like you pray these short prayers, and the one the one you're supposed to pray about mercy, he was like, mercy in the Greek or whatever it was encompassed all of these virtues in one. Like, God, please bestow all of this upon me as you're giving me like grace. I thought that was profound. That like, to me in the English, it's like, oh, I hope God has mercy on me. No. When you go to the root of that, it's like all of these things.
No. It's the whole thing. As I was talking to a friend of mine, he was asking me about like what some translation, and he goes, "What do you think?" I was like, "I think one of the biggest mistranslations in every translation is the word believe. To believe, whosoever believes in Him." And it's like I can because for this, I was sharing something one time with a friend of mine, about my research about dinosaurs, and it's like he said, "You don't believe in dinosaurs?" Hey, see how that word is so easily thrown. But if you look it up seriously in the Hebrew or the Greek in the New Testament, it means a lot more than how it has become in our language. Good night, son. Love you, buddy. How it's become in our language as like you can believe. I mean, historians believe that a man Jesus of Nazareth existed. I mean, atheist historians believe, or they're like, yes, every historian knows this.
Yeah.
But they don't. They believe that this man and died on a cross. Was crucified by Romans, and his followers died proclaiming his resurrection.
Right.
Historical.
Well, and what's fascinating too about the belief perspective, it's almost like they don't even. It's not just that they believe it, it's that they need you to believe it. In order for their belief to be as strong, yours has to be there. It's very strange. Dinosaurs or whatever it is, like, you don't believe in that?
Well, that's why I don't use that. That's why a really good line in The Matrix, probably the best line in The Matrix Part 2, was when Morpheus was standing in front of his superior, and he goes, "Not everyone holds the same beliefs you do, Morpheus, about the one."
Yeah.
My beliefs do not require anyone to hold the same beliefs.
Wow.
That's why I trust it as truth. That's true. That's like, I don't need anybody to.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I could get into that. I don't want to get into that too much, but
sure. Well, you brought up a good point with the cancer thing, and there's so many things like that, like autism, right? Or all kinds
like that.
All it's like we finally find a word for it, and then it creates like a giant umbrella. And what I found really interesting with Kaufman was how he talked about potentially, because he's not I don't know, what's a cancer doctor? oncologist or whatever. He was like, because it's not his field of research, he was like, he had theories and had seen some research that it's the body developing tumors around the toxins, you know. And I was like, I'm not a doctor, I've not read nearly enough, but that little shift in potentially thinking that way, I was like, okay, if that's what cancer is, how can I help my body to not have those toxins? You know what I'm saying? And now my focus has shifted, you know,
clean out
yeah.
And what the germ theory, which from what I've basically saw reading the Beauchamp and Vester book and the germ theory book, is that the germ theory is an evolutionary theory. It's Darwinian at its core. Something happens.
Right.
It's, manifests that's causing this. And it's like, no, it's inside you. It's you. It is you. It is you.
Yeah.
Nothing that, because in the 70s, there was in the 70s, they were going to start vaccinating people for cancer.
Wow. I didn't know that. Wow. That's interesting.
That's the whole thing. It's like, oh no, now they have, and it's so bad, the vaccines, is that, like, if you got the polio shot and you came in with the same symptoms as polio, you didn't have polio. You had encephalitis. They come up with different, that's what I'm saying. They just come, it's straw man, it's goalpost, it's everything. That's why when you name, it's anything, when you name something that really, it does not exist in that capacity.
Right.
Like naming Jupiter something, like naming the planet Jupiter.
Right.
Naming the planet Saturn. And see, that's why none of those things are named. I mean, Pleiades and things are named. Orion is named in the book of Job. But if the translation really in the Hebrew is really a cluster of stars for Pleiades. I mean, it's,
interesting.
They wouldn't. Well, I mean, Hebrews wouldn't put.
Right, they would not use. Yeah,
those are deity names, man.
Right.
Yeah, they wouldn't use them to describe what they were seeing.
Yeah,
the Chaldeans would definitely.
It's certainly, it's been an interesting year, especially related to the health stuff, because it's opened my eyes to what I do to myself and how I can fix those things and how I can change that. And the not to stay on the cancer topic, but like you mentioned with the vaccines and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so let's say like a 7-year-old, or I even had classmates in middle school that had like bone marrow cancer issues. And I'm like, are the toxins that bad early? And is part of his body, like, was his body so in tune normally that those toxins, they reacted that hard, to say like, this has to go, I don't know.
I think it all depends on, honestly, where you live, because I think it has to do with electric currents. I think it has to do with everything that has to do with where you live, what you eat, and it is you. That's the thing. Yeah. You are what you've done, what you put into your body, or like I said, even the waves, what you're around all the time. We can't do without. Your body is fighting what you've done to get rid of it. Like, for example, this is a great example. If you know what strep throat is.
Yeah. It's horrible.
So Kaufman's talked about this. My wife has had it. My wife has dealt with it her whole life. She got it after we got married. She got it, and she did not go to the doctor or take any medication. She's never had it since, and that was probably 20 years ago. Because you're supposed to go through those things. That's what it is there's things eating that, and then it poops, and then you cough.
Right.
And so you're supposed to go through it, and it's like, well, I got to go to work. And well, it's like, and the guy was like, I understand that if you have to do something the next day, you need to take medication to sleep. It's like, if you don't have to go to work, it's better to stay up all night and sleep all day and cough, because the coughing comes at night, because everything, it's your body responding, man, to that. It's just really, you have to work. You have to cough at night. It's really, it's amazing. And I see it as living in a fallen state, man and the earth. The Creator is so merciful that He provides these ways to keep us from dying.
Yeah. And that's a great way
we
to
should
put
be
it.
dead. No, the fall should have killed us. And see, that's why you had to get them out of the garden, because they would eat and live forever, because you have to die. Just think about living in a state of, oh no.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the not the beauty, but like the dark side, really, I should say, of people that want to live forever. is that like once you do, then you're almost cursed because then you can never leave. So like you gain knowledge, right? You see your
They're
family die
already
over and
cursed.
over and
They're
over again.
already
Right?
cursed.
Right, exactly. And then
Their
it's
actions
like,
have already cursed them. That they're great.
right,
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate thing is to because yeah, that's the ultimate thing is to live forever or know
yeah,
about how to defeat death.
yeah,
It's 'cause you can control. I mean, think about it, man. You know so much,
yeah, right.
and
You see your
the
family
further you
die,
get
and
away,
yeah,
the less people are going to know. That's
yeah,
just the progression of humanity.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's what I was telling my son. I was like, this. I said, I really believe there's only there's a reset coming.
Hmm.
Like like a reset,
Yeah, yeah,
like a whoosh. And it's interesting to think about it because there's only so far we can go, man, and something not happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's just
Well,
historical. That's a
and,
historical fact.
and death, I mean, it really is it is sort of its own reset where you get to go back to be with the source, right? You've spent your time here. Hopefully you've learned what you've learned and you've ascended and been the
You
best
go back
human
to
with the time you've
Saturn.
got, you know? Yeah. And then, yeah, but then yeah, hopefully when death comes, hopefully you spent your time wisely. You know, you've only got so much time. You
Well,
never know when it's
I
coming.
think one of the coolest. I was hearing Crow talk about this Buddhist guy that died. And it was kind of interesting to hear how he went into a meditative trance,
Hmm.
went into a position and just died. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But what did he
Wow.
pass? Because the
Hmm.
greatest example, I think, of a man passing is Israel, Jacob passing.
Hmm.
He brought all his children in and he
Hmm.
prophesied over them.
Hmm.
And then he brought Joseph in and prophesied over him and his
Hmm.
two kids. And then he got up in the bed and died.
Wow. Hmm.
So he spoke over his children
Right. Right.
a blessing and a
Yeah.
prophecy to what was going to happen in their generations. And I
Hmm.
mean, it lines up. It's what happened.
Do you
And
think,
then he died. I think that is one of the best examples. He was 110. So
right. Do you think there's something to when you're so in tune and connected both to yourself and you're not riddled with toxins, but you're also connected to the spiritual, you know when that moment's coming and you kind of almost like end up in this sort of mid state where you're like he's prophesying, right? That there's something happening here where he's like, you know what, my time is coming and I'm being filled with
oh no,
this
he
sort
knew.
of
He knew. No, he
thing, you
knew.
know?
He knew. No, he knew.
Yeah.
No, he already knew. Like the monk knew. The monk knew too. When he was
Right,
about to
right,
die. Do you
right.
understand? He
Yeah,
knew,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he was going through his last rites. That's how
Right.
he did it. But it's like, which one you want to look at? Like that's really interesting just to observe that. But it's like when you really think about, shouldn't you want to pass something like that's just amazing. Like I know I'm about to pass. And I mean, it
Mm.
says he died immediately after. Like he emptied
Yeah,
himself
right,
is
right,
to
right.
the point like, okay, you're done. And it's when you read about death in the scriptures and David had a chance to kill Saul a couple of times. He's like, I won't do that because it's the Lord's anointing. The Lord Saul was anointed by the Lord to be the king. And he said, the Lord will take him or he'll die in battle or he'll just die.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't get to, I'm not going to do that. That's picking.
right.
It's kind of interesting when you think it. Like if
And
he
that
murdered him, that would have been
right.
murder.
And he could have done it when he was pooping in the cave. That's the funniest part,
He
right?
did
It could
that
have been the
twice.
most
There's two times, man. Yeah.
right.
Oh,
Could
the
have been the
poop in the
most
game.
could have been the most
Yeah.
undignified death for a
Oh
king.
man.
And
Oh yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah.
which thing I mean, when you think about it, really that'd be spitting in the face of God and saying, like, number one, it's on my time. Number two, I'm doing it my way. Number three, someone that you anointed, I'm gonna kill him while they're pooping in a cave,
Well,
instead of
it's
him dying the
interesting
way God would
to
want it.
when you see the perspective, like he wasn't attacking him.
Yeah,
There's no fight going on. It
right.
would have been so, and it would have been murder.
Yeah. Yeah, it would
I
have been
mean,
dishonorable.
you're
Yeah.
crossing an honor line
Yep.
that God established, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a very interesting concept because battle is really about the only way that they would kill. And
Right.
what's really
Yeah.
crazy about this is that they would abstain themselves
Before
from
battle.
women. They
Really?
would say that,
Keep
yeah,
all that energy?
well, no, listen, this is why. Do you know the account of Bathsheba and David,
Uh
where David
right.
takes this other man's wife?
Yeah. Yeah. He
Well, he
sees her on the
brings him
rooftop.
in from the battlefield, okay, to try to get him drunk to try to go sleep with his wife. And he
Right.
doesn't do it
Right.
because he was consecrated to the Lord for battle.
Huh.
And the whole army, he said,
Huh.
Joab's out there, my general. And there's another account where David is running from Saul, and they go, do you have any food? He went to the priest. He goes, we have only the showbread, which is only for the priest. He goes, but they can have it if they've abstained from women. He goes, yes, because they were in battle. And because of this, they knew, and I'm going to use those terms, that their God was out there with them. So they kept themselves pure from spouting. They didn't do anything.
Right.
Because that right there will make them unclean by doing what we're taught to do when we're kids.
Yeah.
What's his name was talking? The last book. And they would abstain from that. And that's what they did. And that because that was life. They knew that was life.
Wow.
And
That's
yes,
powerful.
it did do. Yes, you can look at it from and it kept their. Of course, it did.
Sure.
But they didn't have to be told that was the reason.
Right.
Yeah, we have to learn these things.
Right.
And then when it gets tortured, what does it become? It becomes you're doing it for your own purposes.
Yeah.
The guy dying there in the state of trance, why did he do it? To show that he could.
Yeah.
Because I've come to this level of enlightenment.
Yeah.
And see, it's interesting because when they were taught, I was listening to this one, how the Masons have taken these Eastern ideas and have manipulated them. But it's like the people go, we can reach this stage of enlightenment, but we know the people, this is Eastern. We can reach this stage of enlightenment. We can get total enlightenment, which is beyond this realm, but they need us. Everybody needs us. Okay. Yeah. That's what the Masons are saying too. We've reached enlightenment, and we're doing this for the betterment of humanity. Right. So it's the same thing. I found it interesting that the guy doing the podcast couldn't kind of put that connection together. Because I think he thinks the Eastern philosophies are so much greater than.
Right.
Yeah, because it's about peace and not killing bugs and stuff,
Yeah, so, Right. Because it's all life.
It's like, you're going a little too stupid. I'm sorry.
Right.
But like I said, that concept is really the same. The Masons say, or the Illuminati, we're enlightened.
Right.
Because they're saying they're doing this for the betterment of humanity. That's why there only needs to be, 500 million people, or, whatever. Right. It's for the betterment of humanity to keep the race. So if there's carnage to get to this, some of the carnage is going to be humans. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But listen, that's what the monks are saying too. We're not reaching enlightenment because we're trying to help those who aren't. They don't need your help. You're supposed to point them to somebody else.
Right. And that is I guess the weirdly twisted way of the
I know that's kind of a crazy. It's all that just came to me to come out that way. It came to me right then, so it's kind of.
But what you said there right at the end is really they should be pointing to somebody else. It shouldn't be about our method, or it shouldn't be about all this other stuff that it seems to be. But it really should be the pointing to. That's where your answers are.
What does that meditation bring? I mean, I have no problem with meditating and coming to a peace, but what does remaining in a constant state of meditation bring? For the betterment of humanity.
Right.
But there was one that came and did it for the betterment of entire humanity. Yeah. That's why they're all welcome. Everybody's welcome. That's why when people say that there's exclusives in religion, it's like, but the one I see said, "Come unto me all."
Yeah.
All. Yeah. It's the most inclusive.
Yeah.
Because he knows everything about you. It's amazing.
It's true. It's true.
That's what's so good about it. I mean, from what I understand and trust as truth,
Yeah. Well, and this has certainly been a great.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get up on all that. Dude.
No, absolutely. That's why we're
this
here.
This book is really phenomenal. Like I said, there's some things like they do use the Mother Mary thing.
Really? Okay, I haven't gotten quite that far.
Which I honestly think these guys might have added that.
It's possible, and I am having kind of. That's why, like the introduction was helpful to know.
I just don't want to cause. I don't want to be offensive to anyone that is.
Sure, I think anybody would understand it. But there's like we said at the beginning of when we were kind of talking about pulling this book out. There's a lot of it that's just very practical about like observing the state that you're in and how to achieve a higher, not through just your own actions, but through the focus on Christ. It's like, here's how you can be better. It's not just through you, it's through.
No, yeah, it's like, think on these things. There's a scripture, I think in Philippians or something. Anything of good virtue, anything of love, think on these things. Keep your because that's the battleground. The mind,
It
it's the
is.
will, it's like the soul of you,
Right.
and
Right.
it's amoral, but it's composed by your experience and your response to your stimulus. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what your soul. That's what your will, and you can change it. It's just habits. It's habits.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's all. It really is. Giving a piece of mind. It takes practice, and we're so far from when this book was written.
Yes. Yes, we
Feel
are.
the same peace of
Yes, we are.
mind
Yeah.
because there's so much clutter. Like last night,
Yeah.
I went to bed thinking about what notes to write in this book I'm going to read.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to make sure to write a note in it. I know that sounds stupid, just for somebody in the future to see like it's the different perspective of what the book is. Like, hey, I want to make sure blah blah blah. Because I
Right.
respect the author, but it's like how are they? And it like I said, it's the theology. It's that came after during the same time period. In Jehovah's Witnesses, more all that cult, whatever the people call it.
Sure.
To where it's like they use the Bible even, but it's such it's only a dogma, such so much dogmatic.
Sure.
This is it, and you have to do it like this. It doesn't even take away from it does. Anyway, it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
don't. They make it all allegorical completely.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, I would say it certainly forced me to really evaluate like where my thoughts are at all times. Am I in that constant state of prayer? Am I in that? He even mentions meditation here several times. Like take this thing and meditate on it. Let it simmer in your mind and focus there and just hold.
The Psalms there's meditative Psalms, man. Like when you read the Psalms, early will I seek you. What do you think he was doing? He said, I want you to sunrise going.
Right.
Enjoying the beauty of the day starting and contemplating on the goodness of the Lord.
Right.
That's what meditation is. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I start my day with just a few minutes and I just kind of try to let myself like, okay, what are the few thoughts that seem to bubble up? And can I go, this is really not important right now. Like, let's just exist here for just a few minutes and just kind of let it happen. Maybe I should focus more on one. I was gonna say maybe I should take one thought or idea and meditate like actively is maybe something I'll try to incorporate.
I'm going to confess, a thing I deal with is have like peace of mind, like resting even at rest. Like when I'm reading, like I get up and I have a big bath. I have this, but I'm still like sometimes thinking about what I'm going to be doing after I get finished.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing for me. I hate that.
Being present still.
I don't want to take drugs. Like I don't want to take Adderall for something.
Right.
Like that. And that's what would be prescribed.
Yes.
And I have taken Adderall. And I'm like, okay. And I've wept about it because I don't want to be dependent on something to function because this is how I am. You understand?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
I just have to find a way to find that.
Yeah.
I'd be a great hunter-gatherer.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think that's a great place to kind of close up is like when you really do have focus on Christ. I mean, any of those things that we might perceive as issues, it's really just something to allow God to manifest fruit or Christ to really kind of just like, these are my flaws, these are my imperfections, these are my good things, but like it all is in the service of the King, Yeah,
it's really good, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. When we were going through Libido Dominandi, there were a couple points where we were kind of off, and I was like, man, I really just want to stay to the month thing. Well, we're getting to the point where I should be announcing what we're doing for June, and we've had one discussion on this. Should we really just be fluid with these kinds of things and just be like, okay, it's not going to stick month to month. We just missed 2 talks. Let's have 2 or 3 more, figure out what's going on, then we'll find the next book, and maybe we have a pause or something like that.
I love it because the way this book is, we can read through it, but I think the focus, like we know what the focus of the book is
right,
is centering, and I think we can read through it. Whatever, brother. I just enjoy the conversation.
Right. I think I'd rather take up and like I said, be more relaxed in kind of the way that you were trying to push for during Libido, and because the last thing I want to do is be like, all right,
well, a laborious thing, man.
Right. And that's exactly like, I was like, shoot, I've been out of town for both of these. I thought I was going to be back. And now I'm like, okay, now I have to try and update people. It's been pretty chill. It's been you and I, and Steven's been in a few times. Like, I'm really not too worried about the structure. We're going to get him in. He said he's been reading it. He said he's been reading
Wasn't this his idea?
Yes, it was. Yes, Steven, where are you, my friend?
Oh, yeah. Hey, another full moon's here, man.
Right.
No, we came to another full moon together.
Do we really? Oh, my gosh.
Well, Wednesday morning is full moon.
Wow. Good to know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I went and watched the sunset. That's why I almost forgot I was watching the sunset. It was like, heck, it's 8:40. And
wow.
But the sun was going down and the moon was here, so
naturally.
They were chemtrailing, but I hope there's a clear one between now and then, just to get the sunset and full moon. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, I hope you get better, man. It's okay. It's your stomach. If stuff's coming out, you're good.
Yeah, well, as long as things are coming out,
as long as you're coming out, it's like it might not be the most pleasant experience, but
I'm trying to.
It's your body responding to that.
Yeah, and that's something that I talked to the nurse that worked with me. I said, I've taken some things to kind of slow the roll, but I was like, I know that's a symptom release. And I was like, that's not what I want to do here. I want to address the problem and I want to fix it and do it properly with diet. So she gave me some meds and I kind of asked, like, what are the side effects? What is this actually accomplishing? Are there food options that I can do that might happen? So I'm trying to be better about that instead of just like popping. Yeah, right. Instead of just like popping the pills, I'm trying to be more proactive and say, okay, how can I prevent this in the future? So I do appreciate that.
You want relief, but you definitely want to find out. It might have been diet. It might have been the whole.
Yeah. Who knows? I might have just like punctured
something. Stressing about the book.
Right. That's what it is. It's the stress.
He's read the whole book and he's waiting to talk about it.
Right. Well, let's do that. I'll do this. I'll make the plan and say like, maybe we'll go to like 5 or 6 weeks ish. So there's lighter reading cause you read faster. Sometimes I'm able to read faster. We'll just do that.
At that time, man, it's different.
Yeah.
I'm just in that place in my life where I can too.
I'll do that and kind of maybe give us like a couple weeks. Cause like 10 pages a day is not bad, but if you miss a day, then you're, or you miss a week, then you're in trouble.
This gets, you want to read it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to blitz through this. So I think what we'll do from here on out is like make a 4 to 6 week ish plan. That way we've got some breathing room and we can enjoy the reads. And then if we bleed into another month, it's fine. And we'll go through that. That way people can be on track.
Yeah, and, you're trying to act like we're in the army or something.
Exactly. I was like, I'm trying to maintain the month. Right. I was like, this is not going to work. I've officially.
No, man, life happens too, Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
I tell we're not podcasters. There you go.
Right.
That's not our profession.
Yeah.
Or we'd be doing like, hey, let's read this book tomorrow.
Right.
It'd be our job to read a book. We do it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. In our free time and whatever. And I don't want it to be
a
labor.
That's what I'm saying. You're starting your family and stuff too, man. You're totally
right. Yeah.
I wasn't reading as much as I am now. When I was
we are 1 week from the 4-month mark, so things are heating up with that.
I think we're narrowing down your stomach issues a little.
Probably.
Yeah. Weddings, stress.
Yeah.
26.
Yeah. I mean, really though, but that is. I've been trying to.
And you went through chemical reactions on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Argument or anything.
when I realized, and I'll try to not take forever on this, but when I realized that, like, but like you mentioned with the stress thing, like when I realized that that's a chemical dump basically, and then it has nowhere to go, I was like, oh man, like that's something to really keep in mind and try to keep this in check so you don't have that, because if you don't do something with it, then it just holds. And I can feel it. When you feel that pain of fear or guilt or whatever, it's like here, man.
Yeah, and the first response is your body's trying to get rid of that poisonous.
Right.
You start thinking, you start sweating. Yeah. And that's your body really trying to get rid of those toxins. And if it can't, and if it don't come out through that, coughing, your lungs, or your bowel, you're going to it gets worse and you become more toxic. Yeah. And giving the poisons I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, man. Thinking about like, okay, is there something else I can do besides take this medicine? Yeah. Because I'm going to give clobacillin praise on magnesium. I have not taken ibuprofen since December.
Really? Wow.
I've had surgery on knees. I got a jacked up knee. I mean, I'm serious. I hurt my knee when I was 15 and never had surgery, and it's jacked up.
Wow.
And he said, I started taking magnesium. Haven't taken ibuprofen, nothing. No pain pills at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've had tight muscles and stuff. I could take something, but it's like I can stretch it out too.
Yeah,
There's a lot of those things. We've been programmed to not go through pain at all. Too.
Sure.
That's another thing.
Right. We try to avoid that at all costs, right? I don't want any pain.
Right. Like now, like if you have surgery, they'll tell you this. Like there's a regimen now. Take 4 ibuprofen, and then 2 hours take 2 extra strip Tylenol. Then 2 hours. It's like that's not good. I mean,
right.
It's like that's not. How about just some ice?
Right.
Just rest. It's like, then you're trying to get over. Your body is killing itself.
Right.
And then you're poisoning your body to keep it from and
to keep it quiet, right? It's keeping it quiet.
And because we've been trained, we're programmed. You got to get up.
Yeah.
That's why we're supposed to rest in the winter, but you can't because you got to pay for the books you bought.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
All right, brother. I'm sorry. We could talk.
We could. I appreciate that.
Conversations. We didn't get on this.
Yeah.
Much, but I wanted to read that first part. I read the extensive part. I was crying so hard reading that. Like,
really?
It's so like we don't reflect on that.
Yeah. That's really what I want to do with this. I really do think this is a good one to read slowly and reflect on it. And yeah, hopefully I'll get something ironed out for the next couple of weeks here. We'll make sure that we're good before we move into the next one.
Bicycle Toy Bear shows up.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I sent him a message.
Ladies bicycle
bear. Right. Well, thanks again for joining me, man. I hope if you don't mind, if you want, I can make this one public, and maybe we'll have
I don't mind.
Public ones. Okay.
Dude, I have nothing to hide. So
cool. Okay. Well, we'll do that. And then,
I'm gonna get off here.
Yeah. Take it easy, man. It's good to see you.
Have a good one, brother.
Yeah, you too. And if anybody else actually watched this all the way to the end, thanks for joining us. David, take care, and we'll go through the rest of this book for the next couple of weeks. Take care, everybody.